My name is Kathy Webster. I am president-elect of this congregation, and I use the she, her, elle pronouns as a French professor. And I am a white woman in her late 50s with dark brown hair, and I am wearing today an animal print dress that my mother made for me when I was pregnant with my son, who is singing in the choir today. Welcome, welcome to First Unitarian Church, where our mission is to explore the eternal, nurture community, and pursue the common good. We welcome you today in your brokenness and in your wholeness. No matter who you have been, who you are, or who you are becoming, we greet you today with love. I'd like to extend a special welcome to everyone who is watching us on YouTube this morning. During the prelude, please introduce yourself in the comments and let us know where you're joining us from. If you're in Oklahoma City, what neighborhood are you in? Or if you're elsewhere, what town or city are you in? And now, the prelude prepares us for worship. We light our chalice here in our building in Midtown Oklahoma City. We are on land that was home to indigenous peoples, including the Apache, Caddo, and Wichita, and on land that was taken from the Muskogee, Seminole, and other removed and relocated peoples. We honor their history. And we light the chalice as a symbol of our sacred time together. The burning chalice represents the light of reason and science, the warmth of loving community, the cleansing heat of justice, and the flame of hope.
Again, welcome. I am the Reverend Sue Redfern Campbell, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. For those in our community who may be blind or visually impaired or are joining us online without video, I am a 5'3" Euro-American woman. I have short hair that's getting to be salt and pepper. I am wearing black, white, and red with a white stole, and I have been walking with a cane these days. You will find information about church events both at the back of your order of service and on our website. I'd like to make a couple of quick announcements. One, I'd like to put in a plug for the Family Systems class that was announced in the most recent newsletter. I'm not going to give a lot of details, but you can go to the newsletter and read more about that. It gives us a chance to explore our relationships of all kinds from the standpoint of family systems theory, something that's been very valuable to me over 35 years in ministry and being a member of a family. I've also been asked to let you know that there is a flute recital. It was originally announced for May 5th, but instead it's going to be on May 18th here at the church at 7 this coming Saturday night. And our own Wendy Pitt, Kathy Webster, and Stephen Elkins Kennedy will perform. So this coming Saturday night at 7. And now I'm delighted to welcome Joan Kane to the lectern. She has an announcement about the auction.
Hi, everyone. My name's Joan Kane. I'm a mid-70s lady. Not mid-70s, well, my age is mid-70s. Mid-70s were also a very good time in my life. My pronouns are she, her. I'm wearing a navy blue shirt today, and I have whitish blonde hair. And so I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the auction. I think by now everyone's aware that the auction has been going on. I'd like to start by thanking all the people who donated things to the auction catalog, many people in church, and also those who solicited donations from local businesses. I think we had a very nice, varied catalog this year. And thanks to the bidders, those who bid online and also at the live auction. And today I'd like to tell you about our total. We raised a total of $16,550. And of that money, $1,775 will go to each of the missions that were part of the auction, online auction. So that's to the church voice dues, and also to the playground. So each of those missions will receive that amount of money. And that leaves approximately $13,000 that will go into the church operating fund. So I think it was a good fundraising effort. Thanks to everyone. We had bids on all of our items. and there was really brisk competition for many of them. We do have a few spots left on some of the parties or experiences, and I wanted to let you know about that. I'm going to do a quick run through, and anybody who's interested in any of those can speak to Marlies. We have 7 spots left on the cookie decorating party, 3 spots left on one of the glass fusion parties, 2 spots left on the America party, which is on the 4th of July with pool and fireworks, 3 spots left on the wine and cheese party, 2 spots left on the It's the 60s party, not It's the 70s, but It's the 60s party. 8 spots left on the karaoke party, and 4 spots left on the legacy party. And there's also 1 brand new conference webcam. So these are some things that are still available, and if you're interested in any of these, you can go see Marlies Grog. And she's over here. And I wanted just to say one thing. The committee, which is comprised of myself, Barbara Gallivan, Emily Dunnigan, Deb Kretzinger, Myriad Todd, Becky Talent, Carmen McBride, Elizabeth Mueller. Everybody worked hard, but nobody worked harder than Marlies Grog. She encouraged us, and she just worked every day, even on her days off. So thanks for that applause for her.
Thank you very much, Joan. I really enjoyed all phases of the auction myself. So as we continue to settle into our sacred time together, I invite you to take a few deep breaths and let go of whatever is getting in the way of just being present. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. As we continue to center ourselves, I offer these words from the Reverend Thomas Rhodes. We come in a variety of colors, shapes, and sizes. Some of us grow in bunches. Some of us grow alone. Some of us are cupped inward, and some of us spread ourselves out wide. Some of us are old and dried and tougher than we appear. Some of us are still in bud. Some of us grow low to the ground, and some of us stretch toward the sun. Some of us feel like weeds sometimes. Some of us carry seeds sometimes. Some of us are prickly sometimes. And some of us smell sometimes. And all of us are beautiful. All of you are beautiful. What a bouquet of people we are. I now invite you to turn in your gray hymnals to the opening hymn, a beautiful setting of a poem by Robert Frost, number 64, Oh, Give Us Pleasure in the Flowers Today.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Tim Atkins, and I serve as your Director of Lifespan Religious Exploration. I'm both big and tall, wearing rainbow glasses, a white and blue flowered print shirt, and some great pink shoes. Did you know that Mother's Day has a Unitarian Universalist connection? Perhaps you've heard of Julia Ward Howe. She's the person who wrote the lyrics to the well-known song, Battle Hymn of the Republic. My eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. That's the one. But Julia Ward Howe was also a scholar, a prolific writer, an abolitionist, an activist for women's rights, and the mother of 6 children. She was quite well known and influential in her day. Ms. Howe was also a Unitarian. She'd been born in New York City, but then moved to Boston. By the time of her marriage to Samuel Gridley Howe, she had abandoned her strict Calvinist upbringing in favor of a more liberal faith. As she wrote later in life, I studied my way out of all the mental agonies which Calvinism can engender and became a Unitarian. She was a member of the Church of the Disciples, one of the 3 congregations that later merged to become the Arlington Street Church that still exists this day in Boston. During the American Civil War, Julia and Samuel visited Washington, D.C., where they saw wounded soldiers walking the streets of the city and grief-stricken families reading the lists of dead. Julia visited the Union camps, seeing the suffering all around. As she toured the camp, she heard the Union soldiers singing their favorite war song, "John Brown's body is a moldering in the grave." And she thought to herself, what a great tune, but what depressing words. So with the encouragement of her minister, James Freeman Clark, she decided to write some new words that help people face the war with inspiration and hope. She recalled that the words came to her all at once as she awoke from a night's sleep. She jumped out of bed and quickly wrote them down, and the battle hymn became one of the great anthems of the Union cause. But then, after the war was over, Julia Ward Howe embarked on a new campaign. She had strongly believed in the necessity of that terrible, bloody war to free the slaves and save the Union. Yet afterwards, she looked back on the war and saw the toll it had taken. As she heard news of the Franco-Prussian War raging in Europe, a deep longing for peace and peaceful means of reconciliation was born in her. And so she began a campaign to establish a celebration which she called Mother's Day. It would be a day to promote peace, since mothers bear so much of the pain and sorrow of war. Her first Mother's Day for Peace took place in New York City on June 2nd, 1872, some 30 years before the Mother's Day we know of came into being. Julia Ward Howe's vision of Mother's Day for Peace never really caught on. It lasted for about 10 years under Howe's personal sponsorship and then died out. But Mrs. Howe remained a peace activist, founding the Women's International Peace Association. Her spirit lives on today in such organizations as the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, and she remains a holy troublemaker, a shining light of our Unitarian Universalist heritage. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Wow, I learned a lot. Okay. Hi again. I'm Kathy Webster. I'm still using the she, her, elle pronouns, and I'm still wearing the dress my mom made me for Mother's Day. And I'm also, as I said, president-elect of this congregation. So before I get going in my reflection, I'm going to take advantage of my bully lectern and fill you in on some of the ministerial search process that's been going on very, very recently. I am leading that search in league with board members Marshall Gimple, Ann Meeks, and Deborah Shin. And after submitting a dossier of information, a rather large dossier, virtual fortunately, we submitted it to the portal for ministry search. In later April, we received the names of 4 interim ministerial candidates who have expressed interest in serving here with us. And that is great. The maximum number we could have gotten is 6. I was going to be happy to have 2, and we got 4. So I can tell you that they are all really terrific, and we are excited to be considered by such outstanding ministers. We all read through, the four of us on the committee read through the extensive portfolios that they submitted. Again, on their end, it was also a very big project. We held Zoom interviews last Saturday with each of them, and we also spoke to several references for each candidate. Yesterday morning, we determined a ranking of these candidates, which was required by the UUA, and we submitted that. So we have done all the things. That is so exciting. And then, the deadline for that process is tomorrow. So starting tomorrow, and even I think starting already, as information is flowing in from both the congregations that are in search and the candidates. But the UUA staff is working some kind of magic, and they are going to match us with somebody, right? As early as we should know by Wednesday. I'm optimistic that we will have an outcome by then. If we don't have an outcome by then, we will know what our next steps will be. But stay tuned for more this week. So it's a very quick, it's like a speed ministerial search process. So yes. All right, now back to your regularly scheduled reflection. I am a holiday person. I love a celebration. I love Pi Day on March 14th. I love Talk Like a Pirate Day, Army Hearties, that's September 19th. I am happy to find an excuse to celebrate something or someone. I mark national holidays and religious holidays and made-up holidays and faith traditions from near and far. And yet, I will admit to not always having been a big fan of Mother's Day. It's not that I haven't always loved my own mother, because I have, and I'm honoring her today in many ways. And overall, we enjoyed a very healthy and supportive relationship for about 56 years, from my birth until her death in 2022. It was very hard to witness her decline as dementia robbed her of her vibrancy and her memory, and especially challenging to provide support to her during COVID. This is my third Mother's Day without her. I miss her deeply today. My trepidation around Mother's Day stemmed, I think, from having lost my father as a child. I was 10 when he died. And consequently, my mother became my only parent, and she deliberately chose to remain a free agent. She told us upon his death that she would never remarry, and she held fast to that. So she did have some long-term relationships, but she never had a true committed partner for the rest of her life, and she was 40 when he died. So on holidays, starting with that first Christmas in 1976, when I was a very young person, I felt compelled to step up my own gift giving for my mother. She had no spouse to shower her with the love and affection that she deserved. So this continued all those years later, and it continued throughout the year. After Christmas, there was New Year's, and then there was Valentine's Day, and then there was Easter, and then her birthday, and young Kathy tried to ensure that Mama was adequately celebrated. Not always with success, I will admit. So perhaps Mother's Day felt kind of redundant to me. Recognizing her as a mother and providing tributes to her as a daughter took place all the time. And so that particular Sunday, maybe it felt like overkill to me. Not surprisingly, the holiday changed for me when I became a mother myself. And those of you who are parents will likely understand what I mean when I say that it is impossible to grasp just how hard it is to be a parent. Literally difficult, literally challenging, and exhausting in ways that are really, I have a hard time putting into words. And it's true from the beginning, and it does not end. So I have appreciated my mother in very specific ways during the early years, but then also later on. I have appreciated the love that my darling husband and baby daddy, Bill Dykes, has showered on me, first by himself when my babies were too young to actually do anything on my behalf, but later in concert with our kids, art projects, breakfast in bed, special outings and events. I have come to enjoy whatever they come up with, and I deliberately try to remove myself from the planning. This morning, Bill brought me coffee and a yogurt parfait, and Thayer has not only agreed to sing in the choir with me today, but he has also offered to make pork chops tonight. Those are 2 big wins in my book. It's an exceptionally special year for me this year because I am celebrating my first year as a mother-in-law. In April, Meredith married her beloved Cademan Armstrong. Cademan has already made a point of honoring me on Mother's Day and on other holidays. In previous years, he has sent me heartfelt messages and gifts that are very meaningful to me and to our shared interests. Early on, I was a little concerned that he was just trying to butter me up. But now that I know him better, I understand how sincere a person he is, and I am deeply touched by his gestures, which often reference the idea that Meredith is the person she is because I have been her mother. This year, the newlyweds delivered flowers to me, not in person, they had them delivered. Very appropriate for today's flower ceremony. I love being a mother. It's definitely the hardest job I have ever had, and I have had some hard jobs. I love my children beyond measure, and I have felt no terror deeper than when they have been endangered, or pride more powerful than when they have been successful in ways large and small. Everyone's path is different. Ours has not been without struggles, and I feel strongly that our UU faith keeps us in covenant with one another through our most challenging times. It is a profound experience to watch our children become the people I want to spend time with, growing into thoughtful and caring young adults and determining their own futures. I am deeply grateful that they are healthy and mostly happy in their lives, and that they are able to give and receive love from their parents and from others. This is perhaps the greatest Mother's Day gift I could receive, and one that I sincerely wish for all of you who have taken on the mantle of motherhood yourselves in whatever form that might take. Amen, and blessed be.
Good morning. I'm Suzanne Broadbent. I'm currently serving on the Committee on Ministry. I'm a Euro-American woman, sort of petite, I guess, and I'm wearing a blue jacket and a blue and yellow scarf. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. Every Sunday we take an offering. Since 2002, all the cash and loose change, checks designated from that offering have been going directly to external nonprofit groups doing good work. We call them our Change for Change partners. For May, our Change for Change partner is Remerge Oklahoma. Remerge of Oklahoma County is a pretrial diversion program that serves high-risk, high-needs mothers facing nonviolent felony offenses in Oklahoma County. Remerge is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to restoring women to their families and community. They seek to impact Oklahoma's high rate of female incarceration and to serve as a model to the power of rehabilitation. For those of you who are in the sanctuary today, in just a moment we'll be passing the offering plate. We know that many of you prefer to mail in your check or make your donations to Change for Change online. You can always make your gift by mailing a check to First Unitarian. Be sure to designate Change for Change on the memo line, or make an online payment through our website, oneuc.org. Thank you.
I wonder if any of you remember the name of the person who created the flower festival, sometimes known as flower ceremony or flower communion. If you guessed the Reverend Norbert...
The flower celebration as it is celebrated today was initiated in Prague.
Oh, good grief.
Norbert Capek, who was also the founder of the...
Yes, Siri understands of the flower ceremony. And I thought I'd put this on airplane mode so that Siri wouldn't come up. Siri, you can go away now. Yikes. I think I'll start over. I wonder if you remember the name of the person who created the flower festival, which is sometimes known as flower ceremony or flower communion. If you guessed the Reverend Norbert Capek, you'd be right. Norbert Capek is a hero of our Unitarian Universalist faith, a minister, a missionary, a political writer, a composer of hymns. He was also another holy troublemaker. He was a heretic, a rebel, and eventually became a martyr to the Nazis during World War II. He was born in Bohemia, which is now part of the Czech Republic. And although he was born to a Catholic family, he became a Baptist minister at age 18 and embraced Unitarianism in his late 40s. He is known for organizing a large Unitarian congregation in the city of Prague. And it was in that church that the Flower Festival began. He never called it Flower Communion, by the way. What you may not know is that Norbert Capek was married to a woman who also became a Unitarian minister. Her name was Maja Capek, and she was actually an equal partner with Norbert in organizing the Prague Church. She, like Norbert, was born in Bohemia, but they met in the United States. She came to New York City in 1907 and studied library science at Columbia University, and in 1914 became the head of the New York Public Library's Czech section. And it was there in the library stacks that she met Norbert, who was newly arrived in the United States. Norbert and Maja married in 1917, and they moved to the town of Bellevue, New Jersey, which is near both New York and New York City. Norbert became the minister of a small Baptist church. He was still a Baptist at that point, but then he resigned his ministry when he realized he could no longer be a Baptist. His faith was leading him somewhere else. Together, Maja and Norbert looked for a church, and they did it in an interesting way, perhaps the way some of you chose this church. They took their children to various Sunday schools and settled on the one that the children liked best, and also where they seem to have learned the most and the most interesting material. And that turned out to be the first Unitarian church of Essex County, New Jersey, where they signed the membership book in 1921. By then, the First World War had ended. It had ended 3 years before, and Maja and Norbert felt ready to return to their homeland, which was now part of the independent Republic of Czechoslovakia. They set sail for Europe in June of 21 with a promise of funding from the American Unitarian Association to establish a Unitarian church. By early 1922, this church was up and running in Prague, and a year later, the first Flower Festival was celebrated. 3 years after that, in 1926, Maja was ordained a Unitarian minister. Fast forward to 1939 and the outbreak of World War II. Maja Capek left Prague for the United States while Norbert stayed behind. Maja planned to make a very brief lecture tour in the States to raise funds for endangered refugees, and then she planned to come back home again. But very soon after she left Czechoslovakia, Hitler's army invaded her country and she could not return. So she ended up staying in Massachusetts throughout the war. She ministered at a church in New Bedford, Mass. Meanwhile, back in occupied Prague, Norbert became a marked man. Hitler's Gestapo, it turned out, had been spying on him, and they monitored his sermons, which they deemed subversive. So in 1941, he was arrested, along with their youngest daughter, Zora, arrested on the grounds that they had a radio and were listening to foreign broadcasts that was considered a treasonous offense to the Nazis. Norbert and his daughter Zora received surprisingly short sentences for this offense, but then once they were in prison, Norbert was branded an enemy of the state, and he was bound over and deported to Dachau, where the Nazis killed him in 1942. Maja, still in the United States, didn't learn of her husband's death until 1945, after the war was over. The Prague Church did continue under the leadership of Capek's daughter and son-in-law. They both had become Unitarian ministers. As for Maja, she decided to work for the United Nations Relief and Rehabilitation Agency, which had been set up to help victims of World War II. For several years, she worked as a displaced persons specialist in both Egypt and Palestine. When she retired from the UN, she traveled around to Unitarian churches and conferences, both in the United States and Canada and in Europe, to talk about the Prague Unitarians and raise funds for the church. Those who knew her said she had tremendous drive and determination, combined with a sensitive and loving heart. She outlived Norbert by 24 years. She died in 1966, but she too was a quiet, holy troublemaker and carried his spirit forward. But still, how did the Flower Festival come to the United States? So far, I've left that part out. Well, it turns out that Maja Capek brought it with her when she first came from Prague on that supposedly short speaking tour. The first American celebration of Flower Communion or Flower Festival was in the spring of 1940 at the First Parish Church in Cambridge, Massachusetts. That's a Unitarian church right in Harvard Square. Since then, the flower ceremony festival has traveled all over the United States and into Canada. Last year was its centennial celebration, 100 years. And now in its 101st year, we celebrate the Flower Festival today. Before we begin it, I invite you to consider these words adapted from writings of the Reverends Teresa and David Schwartz. The Nazis killed Norbert Capek and left Maja an exile and then a widow. But their spirit, courage, and commitment live on today. Those qualities have passed now to us to make them real. What we are about to do is not just an historical reenactment of something that's over and done, but an affirmation of our continuity with the generations of struggle for ever-widening liberty. And the flower ceremony, lovely though it is, isn't a diversion from ugly reality, but rather a gentle fierceness. It proclaims that in the midst of sinister days, there is always the light of beauty. We are here not to recall something that happened, but to remember something that is happening, to remember, to put it back together again. And in remembering, may we put ourselves back together again, each a part of this community, out of many, one. Today we celebrate this ritual of solemnity and joy. As the Capeks ask their people to bring a flower and celebrate beauty, so shall we. So in just a moment, we'll be sharing the flowers that we brought to this service. If you didn't know about the flower ceremony, or if you forgot to bring a flower, it's okay. Please don't worry. There's a flower here for you as well. Consider it a gift to you from someone in this congregation. And for those who did bring flowers, When you arrived at the sanctuary entrances, you were invited to leave your flowers there. And now Steve and Deborah, two of our ushers, are bringing the flowers forward, placing them on the altar in front. And there are flowers on the side as well. Thank you. What a beautiful bouquet we all are. And yes, if you've brought flowers and haven't put them in a vase, you feel free to bring them forward now. Norbert Capek wrote this prayer and blessing of the flowers. Infinite Spirit of life, we ask thy blessing on these, thy messengers of fellowship and love. May they remind us, amid our diversities of knowledge and of gifts, to be one in desire and affection and devotion to thy holy will. May they also remind us of the value of comradeship, of doing and sharing alike. May we cherish friendship as one of life's most precious gifts. May we not let awareness of another's talents discourage us or sully our relationship, but may we realize that whatever we can do, great or small, the efforts of all of us are needed to do thy work in the world. And now it's time for us to complete our flower ceremony. I'm going to invite the ushers to come forward and begin with the front pews and work toward the back, just guiding the rows, one row at a time. And as the ushers come to you, working towards the back and then to the balcony, and then with the choir at the end, I invite you to form two lines in the center aisle and proceed to the flowers. Please pick a flower that represents the beauty and life that you receive from this treasured community. If you'd prefer not to come to the front, please raise your hand or ask someone near you to bring a flower to you. And when you've received your flower, please return to your pew by the side aisles. Our closing hymn is hymn number 78, again in the gray hymnal, Color and Fragrance, and Norbert Capek wrote the words for this hymn.
And we're going to sing verses 1 through 4. We're going to skip 5 and sing verse 6. Please stand.
Before Kathy extinguishes our flame, I'd like to invite everyone here to Daniel Hall, which is out this door, for coffee and conversation, and also the plant sale, which began last week, continues in the courtyard, and you are enthusiastically invited to check out the plants. So we extinguish this flame, but not the light of love and community which burns on in our hearts. The benediction comes from Norbert Capek as well. In the name of Providence, which implants in the seed the future of the flower, and in our hearts the longing for people to live in harmony. In the name of the highest, in whom we move, and who makes parents and siblings, lovers and loners what they are. In the name of sages and great religious leaders who gave their lives to hasten the coming of the age of mutual respect, let us renew our resolution sincerely to be real kindred, regardless of any kind of bar that estranges us from each other. In this holy resolve, may we be strengthened, knowing that we are one family, that one spirit, the spirit of love, unites us all. And may we endeavor to live more whole and joyful lives. Blessed be. Go in peace.